Shalom Yashala, meaning peace be unto the nation of Israel. Humani modern day so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Speckled Israelites, human Israelite foreigners, also scattered across the four corners of the globe, pursuing the biblical prophecy, whom are the Most High Yahweh's chosen people of Israel. Okay. Without further ado, as always, just want to give all praises, glory, and honor to my power, Yahweh, Bahashem, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, Baharach Kodesh, meaning all praise to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, and Holy Spirit. All right, our righteous foundation, all right, which is the truth. All right. And with that, Mashana, Kabawadi Lahasakoyim, Shala Gadawaraka, many double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, the true shepherds, Yashala, and Shalom honors salutation to Bayasha Dawadah, meaning the house of David, representing the elect of the nation of Israel, all right, including 144,000 chosen servants of Yahweh by Shemashai and the rest of 1/3, okay, including you men, women, and children scattered across the four corners, all right. With that, fellow servant Malak Rayab is back at it again with another video through the spirit of Yahweh by Shem Yashai, through the spirit of prophecy, through the testimony of the Lord and Savior, Amashiach Yahweh Shai. Okay. And I was dealing with this stronghold, all right, slash stumbling block, of a so-called holiday, which is a pagan holiday, because all so-called holidays are pagan, are in origin, and how these so-called holidays are pagan idolatry. Okay. And dealing with the pagan satanic origin of Easter, okay, and its correlation with the false Trinity doctrine, which is a further attempt, of the rulers of the darkness of this world to further promote the truth of the Most High, you know what I'm saying, as a lie, all right, or to further promote their change of the truth of the Most High into a lie, rather, pursuing Romans 1:25. Okay, so without further ado, I'm gonna go and get straight into it because right about now, you got Jake, sacrificing, themselves, what I'm saying, upon the altar of idolatry. You know what I'm saying, indulging in these wicked pagan practices that the nation of Israel were commanded not to do. Okay, and the majority of collectively our people don't know that they're Israelites. You see, so the Most High is tearing down these strongholds and stumbling blocks to his prophets of the nation of Israel, pursuing Hosea 12:10, Hosea 6:5, and other precepts, man. So without further ado, and why is that? Because we live in these last days, okay? Where these things were prophesied to transpire. All right. So so without further ado, I'm just gonna go ahead and bring out some information and filter through biblical prophecy, and Lord willing, this is for the edifying, exhorting to the elect who may come across this video. Okay. So so-called Easter Sunday is kept on every fourth Sunday. Okay. Now, it says Good Shepherd Sunday occurs on the fourth Sunday in the Easter season. Okay, it says the name derives from the gospel reading for the day. All right, blah blah blah. Now it says okay, so it says I'll keep reading. It says the name derives from the gospel reading for the day, which is taken from the 10th chapter of John's gospel. In this reading, Christ, Hamashiach, is described as the good shepherd who lays down his life for his sheep. Now, go into what Yahweh Shai mentioning that how Yahweh Shai mentioned how he mentioned scattered. He said, "Smite the shepherd and scatter the sheep." Okay, so throughout the time of secular history, the sheep were scattered after the shepherd of the lost sheep of Israel was smitten. Okay, you know, essentially mutilated to death by the so-called Romans, man, the nation of Edom. Okay, for the remission of the sins of Israel. Okay, we're seeing in St. John 2, all right, around the 19th verse, Acts 5:31 especially. Okay, St. John, the 19th chapter, all right, and another precepts, man. He died for the remission of sins of Israel because rebellion is of the sin of witchcraft. We're seeing in First Samuel 15:23. And the perception of witchcraft, which we know nowadays, is just a further manifestation of that, okay? Which is the vibration of these pagan holidays, man. All right. So there's so a lot, and that includes these strongholds and stumbling blocks that people indulge in. You know what I'm saying? Going into the pagan festival of Easter, kept on every fourth Sunday. All right. So now and that's why these devils require and that's why the so-called Easter is kept on fourth Sunday, because it's supposed to be towards during the vernal or spring equinox. You look at the word definition for equinox, or it goes into it's described as the time or date at which the sun crosses the celestial equator when day and night are of approximately equal length. All right, about September 22nd and March 20th. That's why on March 22nd you have Skull and Bones Day. Okay, it's incense. All right, so you have Skull and Bones Day during this during that spring equinox period where these wicked modern day Chaldeans, the wicked central bankers, all right, of the nation of Amalek, all right, require high ritualistic satanic blood sacrifices. So it's not a coincidence that Easter is known to be kept on fourth Sunday, okay? And then dealing with these sacrifices, you had the rapper DMX, all right, reported around Easter, which is around the time of Easter, okay, to have OD'd off of drugs or whatever, which is more likely crack because he basically a crackhead. Now it's not a coincidence that 4 weeks after he visited the HOI camp down in Atlanta, okay, the key thing there is four, okay, because he dealt with symbolism, okay, because the Most High deals with symbolism, and they're trying to use that's a furtherance of them trying to use the idea of the Most High to teach the precepts of men, which are the laws of men, pursuing the same Matthew 15:9, First Maccabees 1:43, and Isaiah 29 and 13, okay, or Isaiah 29 and 12, rather, Slaki. So 4 weeks after DMX visited the HOI camp down in Atlanta, okay, this happens to him around Easter Sunday, which is kept on the fourth Sunday. You see the symbolism there. You see the correlation. See, because this is high level witchcraft. These devils are known to keep, right? Especially within these equinox periods where they require high satanic ritualistic sacrifices, because that's the vibration these pagan holidays goes back to. Now, with that, I'm going to get going into the vernal or spring equinox. Okay. All right. So it says in the northern hemisphere, the March equinox is called the vernal equinox because it signals the beginning of spring. Vernal means fresh or new, like the spring, and that's what further confirms that the beginning of the year is during the spring. That's what further contradicts this devil saying that the New Year is kept on January 1st. You see that this is what happens when you try to lean on your own understanding. You get confounded. Okay. So it says the September equinox is called the autumnal equinox because it marks the first day of all fall. So you got the vernal spring equinox. You got this equinox, the autumn equinox, and you got the fall equinox, and that's the times where these pagan holidays are kept, man. All right. Now this is on. All right. So this is dealing with some information on so-called Easter. Okay. It says origin of Easter from pagan festivals and Christianity to bunnies and chocolate eggs. But it tells you it tells us in Deuteronomy 16 and 8. All right, the precepts that the Passover is a solemn day. So Easter has nothing Easter has nothing to do with the Passover. Okay, the only reason the word Easter appears in the New Testament is because during the Ptolemaic dynasty, all right, in Egypt, we had Ptolemy II, all right, translate the New Testament into Greek, otherwise known as a Septuagint, all right, and that was which was further to, which is reason why goes into why the word Easter is there because of the wicked Israelite Constantine the Great incorporating the idea of paganism with the scriptures, man. And in pursuing Revelation 22 and 18, not supposed to add or remove from the scriptures, man. So he ended up doing that, going back to 325 AD. And that's where these pagan holidays goes back to, where it goes back to the 325 Nicene Council or a Nicene Creed, okay, which basically the birth of religion, of our religion, okay, and these pagan festivals and how they correlate. That's why the so-called Christian church, even today, on so-called Fourth Sunday, you can bet a lot, these Israelites predominantly, these churches are, worshiping these pagan gods, man. Ishtar, Astarte, you know, and Baal, because all this pagan worship really goes back to Baal. Nimrod worship, okay, sacrificing, indulging in human sacrifices to the sun, okay, and I'm just gonna be brought out in the stream once again, okay. So it says origin of Easter from pagan festivals and Christianity to bunnies and chocolate eggs. All right. So it says, so it says, I'm just going to jump down. It says, following the advent of Christianity, the Easter period became associated with the resurrection of Christ, Hamashiach, dealing with the Passover. All right, around the time of the Passover, the last feast of Messiah. It says in the first couple of centuries after Jesus's, which is his real name is Yahushua. So in the first couple of centuries after Yahushua's life, feast days in the new Christian church were attached to old pagan festivals. You see, says Professor Cusack. Spring festivals with the theme of new life, dealing with the spring equinox, and relief from the cold of winter became connected explicitly to Jesus, Yahushua, having conquered death by being resurrected after crucifixion. That's why Constantine had pagan principles tied in with the or pagan ritualistic sacrifices tied in with biblical principles to further justify Christians being able to worship pagans. All right, under that New World Order mind frame, okay, which is of this modern day theme of America, liberty and justice for all, okay, the New World Order, that New World Order agenda, okay. So I'm going to start this off with Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 8. All right, Salaki, all right, Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 8. It reads, 6 days thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and on the seventh day shall be a solemn assembly to the Lord, Yahweh thy God. Thou shalt do no work therein. Okay. All right. So this is a solemn assembly. Look at the word of solemn. Okay, for edification. All right. All right. Deuteronomy 16 and 8. Get the word solemn. Okay. How solemn has nothing to do with going outside of your home and you know what I'm saying, going Easter egg hunting, man. You know what I'm saying? That's folly. That's that folly mirth vibration. You know what I'm saying, of these so-called pagan holidays. It has nothing to do with the Passover, the Lord's Passover. Okay. So getting that word solemn, all right, solemn is sacred, okay. There's nothing sacred about Easter egg hunting, man. You see, and that's why when around that time, around the time of the Passover, it was a time of great death. And that's why in Exodus 12 chapter, that blood that we were supposed to put on the lintel on our doorposts, on the outside of our doorposts, was symbolic of the bloodshed of Hamashiach Yahushua, who shed his blood for the remission of sins. Okay, and pagan worship is high level satanic, satanic sacrifice, man, which is sin. You know what I'm saying? That's a pygmy. That's a further example of sin. See, so he didn't. So that's what these so-called Christians, like to do. That predominantly indulge in this madness. They like to try to say, oh well, the grace spoken about in Romans the 6th chapter is talking about how the Messiah, died so that we can indulge in it and we can do whatever we want. No, that's not how it works, man. He died for the remission of the sins of Israel, and one of the main sins of Israel was rebellion, witchcraft. Okay, divination, enchantments, and that's what these pagan holidays goes back to, man. So that further tears down the stronghold of Easter being a Passover, because the Passover was a solemn symbol where we were in an austere, stern, serious, a time, because we knew that the Messiah was going to be he was going to be murdered, man, by them Romans, man. All right. So what does it have to do with Easter egg hunting? You know what I'm saying? With these Easter eggs and chocolate bunnies and whatnot, and chocolate coated bunnies and whatnot. Man. Okay. So I'm going to get Exodus chapter 12, verse 21. All right. This is Exodus chapter 12. I'm start at verse 21, and it reads. Then, I'm sorry, verse 20. Ye shall eat nothing leavened in all your habitations, shall you eat unleavened bread. Verse 21. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your families and kill the Passover, because that lamb represents Mashiach and Yahushua. Verse 22. And ye shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin, and none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning. So during the Passover, we weren't supposed to even leave our homes, man. You see? So what is required for Easter egg hunting? Leaving your homes. You know what I'm saying? Going out, you know what I'm saying, to indulge in Easter egg hunting and whatnot. Okay. to search for hidden eggs. And then because of the reason why that was done, it was of an ancient folklorish custom in Australia and whatnot, where they would decorate these eggs because the eggs is symbolic of fertility, going back to Astarte, all right, otherwise known as Ishtar, the fertility goddess, man, all right, you know what I'm saying, and other deities. So that's idolatry, man. And the Most High said, and that goes against the first commandment, Exodus, the 20th chapter, where the Most High Yahweh said, "Thou shalt not serve any other gods before me." So all this you know what I'm saying, these so-called modern day holidays of pagan origin, a high level satanic blood ritualistic sacrifice. Man. So this is Exodus 12 and 23. For the Lord Yahweh will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel and on the two side posts, the Lord Yahweh will pass over the door and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your houses to smite you. That destroyer is Mashiach Yahushua. Okay, he is an angel spoken about in Exodus 23:21. That was to lead the children of Israel out of Egypt. All right, it's a pillar by night and a cloud by day. And he's coming back in that same cloud, okay? All right, the chariot, all right, pursuing Isaiah 19 to destroy these idols, man, including the Statue of Liberty, all right, Guadalupe, tied into, tied into the so-called Mother Mary idol of the Roman Catholicism. You know what I'm saying? It's further correlates with Roman Catholicism religion going back to the Nicene Council. Okay, and going into the fact that these devils look to change the truth of the Most High Yahweh to a lie, man. All right, through during the Renaissance period. Man. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring out some more information. All right, Salakia. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and get over to Acts chapter 12, verse 4. All right. All right, so bear with me, Baba Shah. All right, so this is this is Acts chapter 12, verse 4, and it reads, all right, bear with me, Baba Shah. Oh, before I do that, let me bring out this information here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get Khan. So I'm going to get this information here. All right. So it says origin of Easter from pagan festivals of Christianity to bunnies and chocolate eggs. All right. So it says Easter's changing date in 325 AD, the first major church council, the Council of Nicaea, determined that Easter should fall on a Sunday following the first full moon after the spring equinox. That is why the date moves and why Easter festivities are often referred to as movable feasts. There is a defined period between March 25th and April 25th on which Easter Sunday must fall, and that's determined by the movement of the planets and the sun, Professor Cusack said. And that's also why these devils, they've created daylight saving time, which is prophesied in Daniel 7:25. How they look to change times and laws, okay, to ward out the saints. Like it says in Daniel 7:25, and the saints are the sanctified nation of Israel, who are given laws, statutes, commandments of the Holy Covenant. All right, the Holy Covenant has no, they're not include pagan festivities, man. All right, including Ishtar worship. All right, and these other deities, you know what I'm saying, that are tied into Easter. All right, going back to the Trinity doctrine. All right, the false concept of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, which is, you know what I'm saying, synonymous with the Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz worship. You know, going into the Queen of Heaven, Semiramis worship, and that's what has further influenced the feminist slash women's liberation movement, man. All right, because everything has an origin. All right, and that vibration of this high level satanic pagan ritualistic sacrifice period. All right, through the holiday season, including today, Easter. All right, goes back to that, man. Goes back to Baal Peor. okay, Balaam, all right, going back to heavy idolatry, you know what I'm saying? Heavy pagan idolatry. All right. Shalom Yakananya by Shimon Sharokata. All right. So so it says here, continuing on, Pashka, which is the Greek word for Easter in Acts 12 and 4, I'm about to bring out. It says Pashka, Easter, and a goddess of spring. Okay. So it says in most countries in Europe, the name for Easter is derived from the Jewish festival of Passover, which is really talking about, you know what I'm saying, it's talking about our Passover, all right, of the lost 12 tribes of Israel. So it says, so in Greek, the feast is called Pashka. In Italian, Pasqua. In Danish, it is Pasque. And in French, it is Paques, Professor Cusack said. But in English-speaking countries and in Germany, Easter takes its name from a pagan goddess from Anglo-Saxon England who was described in a book by the 8th century English monk Bede. Now, so the reason why it says English-speaking countries, because that first goes to that prophecy in Deuteronomy, Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 48 on down to 49, where it speaks about how the nation of Edom would represent the eagle would conquer the nation of Israel, and they would come over here speaking languages that we did not understand, which includes Spanish, French, Portuguese, and English. And that goes into the prophecy in Psalm 68:11, how James Charles Stewart, aka King David, a so-called black man, okay, in the 1600s, used scholars to translate the scriptures from the Hebrew, the original language, Latin, and the Greek into English so that we could understand it. Okay. So when he translated it, and around that time, all right, that word Easter was already there. The word Easter was there, but in the Greek it's Pashka. All right, because of the Hebrew word, the Hebrew Passover, which is what Pashka is in the Greek. All right, it's supposed to be Pesach, which is Hebrew for the Passover, man. You see, but the reason why Easter is there in Acts 12 and 4 is because of Constantine, man, that wicked Israelite. All right, which further fulfilled Ezekiel 22 and 26, and Revelation 22 and 18. How he perverted the gospel by combining the gospel with pagan principles, man. All right, and how to get what. All right, but I'm going to continue. This is Acts chapter 12, verse 4. It says, so they being sent forth by the Salakia, wrong chapter. All right, so let me flip back. This is Acts chapter 12, verse 4. It says, and when he had apprehended him, all right, we're just talking about King Herod, all right, after he killed James. I'm going to start from the top. The point is in verse 4. Just to get perspective on what's happening here, dealing with the origin of the word Easter, the pagan origin of Easter here. So this is Acts 12 and 1. It says, how about that time, Herod the king stretched forth his hands to vex certain of the church. Okay, he's really talking about Israel. And he killed James, the brother of John, with the sword, and because he saw it pleased the Jews, he proceeded further to take Peter also. Then were the days of unleavened bread, the Passover. Now here's a point in verse 4. And when he had apprehended him, he put him in prison and delivered him to 4 quaternions of soldiers to keep him, intending after Easter to bring him forth to the people. All right. So let's go ahead and get that in interlinear. All right, or the Greek concordance. All right, let's get that word Easter. All right, Easter, Pashka. Okay, and this is what it says here. Pashka in the Greek. All right, otherwise known as the Septuagint, influenced by the Ptolemaic dynasty. So it says the Paschal sacrifice, which was accustomed to be offered for the people's deliverance of old from Egypt, talking about the Passover. Okay, the Paschal lamb, the lamb the Israelites were accustomed to slay, not the whole world. Okay, so it's just for the tears down that stronghold of Easter. This has nothing to do. Has nothing to do with the Passover, because this is a solemn assembly of the high holy days, the holy covenant only given to the nation of Israel. So it's a Paschal lamb, the lamb the Israelites were accustomed to slay and eat on the 14th day of the month of Nisan. Okay. the first month of the year in memory of the day of which their fathers, which the first month of the year is during this, the so-called spring equinox, which this is a scientific way that Esau refers to it as, but it's during the spring. Okay, and that's the Lord's that's when the Lord, that's around the time the Lord was born, during the spring. All right, that's why his birthday was on the Passover, which you can read about in St. Luke the second chapter. Okay, not on January 1st, but during the spring. So it says, the first month of the year, in memory of the day on which their fathers, preparing to depart from Egypt, were bidding by the Most High to slay and eat a lamb, and to sprinkle their doorposts with its blood, that the destroying angels, seeing the blood, might pass over their dwellings. See, and that's why that goes into the concept of satanic pagan ritualistic sacrifice of these pagan festivals. All right, dealing with blood you know um, the requirement of blood by these modern day Chaldeans, okay, who were keeping these pagan festivals, prophesied in Deuteronomy the 18th chapter, modernly known as these censure bankers, okay, who promotes this witchcraft. All right, the rulers of darkness of this world. Okay, they're responsible for promoting this witchcraft. Okay, so they know that there's that the life is in the blood, like it says in the Leviticus the 11th chapter. So they know that, being that the blood in the Passover and Exodus, the 12th chapter, represents the bloodshed of Hamashiach and Yahushua, the Messiah, for the nation of Israel's sins. They further promoted the incorporation of the gospel of paganism, because a high level of satanic sacrifices on the left hand side, all right, is required through bloodshed. You see what they did? You see the correlation? All right. That's why they promote it to this day. So it says Hamashiach crucified is likened to the slain Paschal lamb. Okay. So it's going to get that. It's going to get back to the article. It says Eostre. Okay, Eostre was a goddess of spring or renewal, and that's why her feast is attached to the vernal equinox. Okay, Professor Cusack said. In Germany, the festival is called Ostern, and the goddess is called Ostara, which goes back to Astarte in Judges 2 and 13. You know how the children of Israel they were sacrificing to Baal and Astarte or Astaroth, and that's what which is synonymous with Ishtar, which is another word for Easter. Okay, and that's what this pagan origin of Easter goes back to. All right, idolatry, which is witchcraft. Okay, so it says rabbits and eggs as ancient symbols of new life. Many of the pagan customs associated with the celebration of spring eventually became absorbed within Christianity as symbols of the resurrection of Jesus, Yahushua. Okay, so that's what further ties back to sun god worship, because being that this goes back to Baal, all right, that's synonymous with Nimrod worship, all right, worshiping the constellation of the stars. Okay, and that's what Saturnalia of Christmas goes back to, and enjoy these pagan holidays, man. All right, and as the idea of sun god worship is correlated to the Trinity doctrine. Okay, that's why it says here. Got some footnotes. I got some footnotes I want to bring out. Salakia, just bear with me a moment, bro. Kasha. All right, so this is this all right. Sorry, here it says a papal crest, or the crest of the Vatican, is a further serpent, all right, otherwise known as Satan, all right, are synonymous with Satan worship. So it says a papal crest, or the crest of the Vatican, is a further serpent or Satan worship deriving from Babylonian deity Marduk, proclaimed as Marduk. Okay, well, that's a non-biblical deity, Marduk, but it correlates with Baal and Nimrod worship. Okay, the so-called Trinity doctrine and sun god worship. So it says in the third century, by Roman Edomite Emperor Heliogabalus, introduced, also utilized by Constantine. All right, the crest actually goes back to Baal once again, also synonymous with Astarte, or otherwise known as Isis, the Egyptian god, Horus and Tammuz. All right, which is synonymous with the Holy Trinity doctrine practice. Okay, going into sun god worship. All right, including the worship of the sun god Ra. All right, Nimrod and Semiramis, along with Tammuz. Okay, so I'm going to get that. All right, we get that, and before see, and who's responsible for this, man? All right, Jake. Ultimately, let's go ahead and get that. Okay, the prophecy that was fulfilled. All right. Jake joining on to idolatry, despite Jacob, which are the descendants of Jacob, the Israelites, given the holy covenant of the Most High, okay, to be holy. And there's nothing holy about these pagan practices. That they try to justify with the idea of God, okay, teaching the precepts of men, pursuing Isaiah 29:12. So it's Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 26. It says, her priests have violated my law and have profaned mine holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane. Okay, and holy means separate. Okay, that's why in Jeremiah 10:2, Jeremiah the 10th chapter, verses 1 and 2, Yahweh said, "Go ye not the way of the heathen, to avoid worshiping the gods." Okay, and the worshiping of the gods, including worshiping the constellation of the stars, going into sun god worship. Okay, tied in with high level satanic blood ritualistic sacrifices. All right, which is the origin of Easter. That's why the so-called Chinese worship the sun. Okay, that's why you have a day called Sunday. Okay, let me bring that out. Okay, exposing these so-called man-made religions. So at Sunday, okay, it says it is a law of the Holy Catholic Church alone. All right. Despite the Bible saying, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, right? It says the Catholic Church says, by my divine power, I abolish the Sabbath day and command you to keep holy the first day of the week, which they call Sunday, which goes back, which is the worship of the sun, right? Nimrod worship, all right? Is the worship of the sun god Ra, the worship of Baal, ultimately. Okay, so that's what Sunday goes back to. That's why it's kept on Sunday, specifically the fourth Sunday. Okay, during the spring equinox, a time of high level required ritualistic sacrifices, man, by the rulers of the rulers of the darkness of this world, the powers that be. Okay. All right. So back in Ezekiel 22 and 26, her priests have violated my law and have profaned mine holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane, neither have they shewed difference between the unclean and the clean. All right, profane means outside of the temple. In the Greek, it's babios, meaning ungodly. And during regarding the satanic origin of Easter, is highly profane. See, and that goes back to so this is a further fulfillment. This prophecy here is a further fulfillment also of Constantine the Great in 325 AD, which incorporated paganism with the biblical principles, man. Okay, and other Israelites followed suit. All right, further profaning the Sabbath, because the Passover is a Sabbath day. Okay, we're supposed to keep it holy. Okay, we're supposed to be heavily indulgent in prayer to the Most High. Okay, congregating with likewise believers, studying. Okay, you even can drink some yayan, going back to St. Matthew 26 chapter, which is wine. Okay, red wine. Okay, what does it have to do with Easter egg hunting, man? In Easter, okay, putting on your best three-piece suit and going to a harlot house, pursuing Jeremiah the 5th chapter, a temple not made with hands, pursuing the Acts 7:48 that they call church nowadays. You see? All right, Ezekiel 22 and 26. Her priests have violated my law and have profaned mine holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and profane, neither have they shewed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profaned among them. Okay, so they're essentially looking at the Most High like he's unclean, and that's that smoke that burns in his nose, pursuant to Isaiah 65 and 5. All right, because that heavy idolatrous spirit, that spell that people are under, that enchantment, okay, by these rulers of the darkness of this world, man. All right, so I'm going to get that precept, Hosea chapter 5, starting right from the top. Okay, because the priest profane the Sabbath with incorporation of these worldly philosophies, man, including paganism. Okay, because even though the tribe of Levi is known as the priest of the nation of Israel, all 12 tribes of Israel are the priesthood, that royal priesthood spoken about in 1 Peter 2 and 9. Okay. Okay, which would include Constantine, because by bloodline he's a priest and he profaned the Sabbath during the 325 Nicene Council, man. Okay, by fusing paganism with the Bible, man. And that's why that's the influence of Easter in the New Testament, Septuagint. This is Hosea 5 and 1. Hear ye this, O priests, and hearken, ye house of Israel. And give ye ear, O house of the king, for judgment is toward you, because ye have been a snare on Mizpah and a net spread upon Tabor, and ye ensnared these traps. So these traps are these strongholds and stumbling blocks dealing with these worldly philosophies and customs that our people have been indoctrinated to believe is holy. You know, like pursuing Isaiah 61:4, under generations of indoctrination under the wicked, man. All right, the lowest of all wicked nations, Esau, man, the Edomites, okay, including the Ptolemaic dynasty. So this is Hosea 5:2, and the revolters are profound to make slaughter, though I have been a rebuker of them all. Verse 3, I know Ephraim and Israel is not hid from me. Okay, for now, O Ephraim, thou committest whoredom, and Israel is defiled. Now, Ephraim is the so-called Puerto Ricans, being the leaders of the northern kingdom of Israel. All right, the so-called indigenous tribes, otherwise known as the Spanish-speaking tribes. Those are the so-called indigenous that speak Spanish. That's why you have the tribes of Issachar, the so-called Mexicans, and the so-called Mayans of the tribe of Zebulon down here in Guatemala, Panama, and Mexico in general, that are heavily known into indulging in Guadalupe worship, in which Guadalupe worship is synonymous with Mother, so-called Mother Mary, okay, the mother of the Messiah, which goes back to the so-called concept of Mother Church of Roman Catholicism, man. All right, of the Greek goddess of sorcery, Circe. All right, which is tied into Astarte worship, Ishtar worship, which is another word for Easter. Okay, to worship the god, the so-called mother goddess Semiramis. Okay, so it's all witchcraft, man, and our people are responsible for this. That's why, you know, our people worship Guadalupe. You know what I'm saying? Once again, and all these deities. All right, so it's Judges 2:13. All right, you know, further exploring the wicked origins of Easter. All right, going back to these pagan idols. Okay, I'm going to get Judges, Salaki. All right, get Judges chapter 2, start at verse 13. It says, and they forsook the Lord Yahweh and served Baal and Ashtoreth. You see, and the first time we encountered, you see, Baal is tied in. Baal goes back to that idol where they would indulge in high level satanic blood ritualistic sacrifice to Satan by through human sacrifices, you know, to this idol where people will be burned alive. You see, this is the wicked pagan witchcraft that Easter goes back to, man, right? Which is also prophesied here in Judges 2:13. And they forsook the Lord Yahweh and served Baal and Ashtoreth, which is also known as Astarte. Okay. All right. So going back here, you know, to this article, we're mentioning Ostern, all right, the German goddess of festivity, all right, also known as Astara, okay, synonymous with Ishtar, and that's why they have those eggs in Easter, that is to worship to commemorate and worship the fertility goddess Ishtar, man. So you know what I'm saying? The Most High said that shall, and that's not just get that real quick. Exodus 20:3, he said, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." So how is Easter holy, man? You see, there's a reason why Easter is in the Bible, and that's been further broken down. You know what I'm saying, by the apostles and elders on down. You know what I'm saying, including brothers such as myself, because these strongholds and stumbling blocks are being torn down in these lives. So unconformed from this world, Jacob. All right, you Israelites, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians, and come back to your God, Yahweh. Okay. Exodus 20:3, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Verse 4, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Okay. All right. So these idols of paganism tied into Easter, all right, was forbidden by the Most High Himself, man. So how is it holy? Okay. All right, it says rabbits and eggs is ancient symbols of new life. Many of the pagan customs associated with the celebration of spring eventually became absorbed with Christianity as symbols of the resurrection of Yahushua. It says eggs as symbol of new life became a common people's explanation of the resurrection. After the chill of the winter months, nature was coming to life again, Professor Cusack said. See, and that's why this feast, okay, they call Easter, was also kept during during the spring equinox, because it was a further commemorate this goddess, this the spring goddess. Okay, all right, and go to get her name. I think I brought it out earlier. I did bring it out earlier. You get her name. All right. Salakia, just bear with me one moment about the shot. All right, so yeah, so the reason why Easter is kept, there's another reason why Easter is kept during the spring equinox is to worship another goddess. Okay. What's her name, man? Uh, so like Satan is hiding from me. Okay, Eoshtre. Okay, so another reason why Easter was kept during the spring equinox is to further worship the goddess of the spring, quote unquote, Eoshtre, which is synonymous with those other goddesses that were mentioned. All right, Ishtar, Astarte, Circe, going into the whole Mother Church madness and the whole Trinity madness, man. All right, of sun god worship. Okay, of Baal, Nimrod. Okay, all right, all right, so dealing with it says here, all right, says, all right, so it says, the first edible Easter bunnies made from sugared pastry were made in Germany in the 19th century. The big confectionery companies like Cadbury in England started manufacturing chocolate eggs. Chocolate that used to be something that's bitter and drunk became something that was sweetened and turned into a confectionery treat. See, and that goes into the vibration um, of the wine of fornication, presently known as the Western philosophy, and that's of this Babylonian empire known as America. All right, where they use Western philosophy to justify wickedness. Man. That's why they have. That's what further goes into why fulfills Daniel 7:25. They look to change times and laws, including daylight saving time. Okay, to wear out the saints. Okay, so it says. Today, chocolate eggs and egg hunts are a popular part of Easter celebrations around the world. Okay, Ishtar worship, Eoshide worship, Astarte worship. Okay, all right. Circe, the Greek goddess, Circe worship, going into the idea of the Roman Catholic Mother Church concept. See, so this is madness, man. All right, so I'm going to get go back to Judges 2 and 14. And the anger of the Lord Yahweh was hot against Israel, and he delivered them into the hands of spoilers that spoiled them, and he sold them into the hands of their enemies round about, so that they could not any longer stand before the enemy. So we got scattered across the four corners, including the north country and Jeremiah 16 and 15, which is America. And this is the mainland of our captivity, the place of drawing waters, pursuing Judges 5:11, where we're still keeping these wicked pagan, ancient satanic customs to this day. Okay, worshiping Satan. All right, the Most High is angry. The Most High tired of that. So this is why, and this is why the woman is further used as a tool of destruction, confusion throughout these these modern day pagan so-called holidays, man. Okay, because when we first encountered Baal, matter of fact, get that Jeremiah 25 and Jeremiah 25 and 1. All right, because the whole concept of Easter, of being of paganism, all right, is to push out different pagan vibrations like women worship, to the feminist movement, going back to Margaret Thatcher, for example. You see, this is a correlation of witchcraft, man, in the modern day world, all right, and how Baal, Nimrod worship, sun god worship is tied in with Baal Peor, all right, which we first encountered in Jeremiah the 25th chapter, also spoken about in Revelation 2nd chapter, going into fornication. And fornication is another word for adultery, which the porn industry heavily promotes, the music industry heavily promotes, and this world is in general, okay, heavily promoting sexual deviancy, that is, debauchery, going back to orgies and whatnot, going back to the wicked pagan Greco-Holy Roman Empire, which goes back to ancient Egypt and Babylon, man. All right, because there's nothing new under the sun, pursuing Ecclesiastes 1 and 9. This is Jeremiah 25 and 1. The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the people of Judah in the fourth year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah. That was the first year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. Verse 2, the which Jeremiah the prophet spake unto all the people of Judah and to all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, saying, from the 13th year of Josiah, the son of Ammon, king of Judah, even to this day, that is the 23rd year, the word of the Lord Yahweh had come unto me, and I have spoken it to you, rising early and speaking, but ye have not hearkened. Okay, which I believe this is jump down to verse I believe it's verse 12. All right, dealing with the what's that, Baal Peor? I believe it's Baal Peor. All right. That's that pagan deity, all right, tied in with Easter. Okay. Let me see. All right. So this is Salakia. Okay. This is Jeremiah chapter 25, and I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue in verse 12. And it shall come to pass when 70 years are accomplished that I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, said the Lord Yahweh, for their iniquity in the land of the Chaldeans, and will make it a perpetual desolations. Okay. Now, it's not a coincidence that when you look that up, all right, when you look at in Acts 12 and 4, okay, when you go to the Strongs, right? Let me see. When you click on Easter and you go to the Strongs, this is what it says. Okay, when you go to the Strong's definitions, it says Pashka, the Greek word for Easter, which is which is tied into the word Passover. Even though Easter has nothing to do with the Passover, the Greek word for Easter is Pashka. Okay, it says of Chaldee origin. Okay, and those ancient Chaldeans were those enchanters, those warlocks and witches. All right, that were indulged in high level satanic ritualistic sacrifices, like the Hamites of the time of Pharaoh, the Egyptians. That's why when Most High Yahweh told Moses to throw down his staff to turn into a snake to further exalt the Most High's power on earth, his righteous glory on earth, the Pharaoh he combated that by saying, okay, well, I can do that too. And he had somebody throw down a staff, all right, and convert that staff into a snake, all right, on the left-hand side, the little witchcraft, all right, because that was around the time of the so-called Chaldeans and the ancient warlocks, enchanters, and witches, okay, which are modernly known as these central bankers, man, all right, promoting the rulers of the darkness of this world, okay, the central bankers pursuing the St. James 5th chapter, they're prophesied to be exposed and go down and lose their rulership to Yahweh Shai and the Israelites. All right, so that further confirms they're responsible for all this madness. Okay, so with that, I'm gonna get Revelation chapter 2, verse 14, and that's further why they use the woman to further push out these satanic vibrations, man. All right, promiscuity, whoredom. Like Cardi B, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion with the whole Watt spirit goes back to Baal Peor. Okay, matter of fact, we get that Revelation chapter 2. All right, because really, when we first encountered that God, we use Baal Peor is around the time of the Moabites, so-called Chinese. Okay, and that's why they worship the sun to this day. Okay, because it's all tied into sun god worship, the Holy Trinity doctrine. All right, this is Revelation 2 and 14. But I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, okay, which is tied into Baal Peor, okay, going back to Baal worship, the sun god worship. So it says, but I have a few things against thee, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam, who taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols, and to commit fornication. Another word for fornication is adultery. All right, promoting sexual deviancy, debauchery. All right, degeneracy. Okay, what I'm saying, like sexual, like orgies and whatnot. And these vibrations heavily pushed through women. That's why during the time Hugh Hefner, you have what? Playboy bunnies. What comes to mind? Okay, Ishtar worship, the worship of fertility, which is the symbolism of eggs and Easter. And then what? Bunnies, Playboy bunnies. Okay, women. Okay, harlots. You see the correlation. This is what they do. They push out these vibrations, man. Are the unclean spirits of Babylon the Great, pursuing Revelation 18:3. That's why women have a heavy role in these vibrations, man. Okay, that's why they every time you see a Cardi B, she's sticking her tongue out. I'm not gonna demonstrate it because it's off. And that goes back to that Hindu goddess, I forget her name, where the Hindu goddess always has her tongue out. That ties into these pagan deities discussed in the stream, man. Okay, all right, where our people were indulging in Balaam worship by having, by through sexual deviancy. Okay, which is heavily once again pushed throughout the music industry and porn industry, and that's why they're using Little Nas X to further push out that vibration. All right, because these modern day Chaldeans, okay, pursuing the Deuteronomy 18 chapter, Isaiah 47 and 1 and other precepts, the rules of the darkness of this world spoken about in Ephesians 6 chapter are here today. All right, and mainly central bankers once again, man. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 2. All right, Salaki. All right, this is Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 2. And this is what further ties into the Trinity doctrine. Jeremiah 10, I'm starting verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord Yahweh speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Verse 2. Thus said the Lord Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. See, so going into how these pagan deities, all right, are tied and correlate to the Trinity doctrine. All right, the main correlation is sun god worship. All right, through Baal, synonymous with Baal and Balaam. So it says here, the Holy Trinity doctrine is associated with the madness that I talked about. It says, wherein the Father God aspect derives from Baal, Nimrod, okay, sun god worship, okay, which is why they have, which is why Easter is kept on Sunday. Worship of the sun, worship of Nimrod, worship of the sun god Ra. You see the correlation of this madness, okay? The Holy Trinity doctrine is associated with the Father God aspect of the Holy Trinity, where the Father God aspect derives from Baal, Nimrod. You have the Mother God aspect deriving from Astarte, prophesied in Judges 2 and 13 that we were worshiping back then. Okay, more modernly known as Circe. All right, the Greek goddess of sorcery. Okay, during the pagan Greek Empire, and that was around the time of the Seleucid Empire. That's why in the First Maccabees it prophesies about Antiochus Epiphanes being that evil root of the nation Edom that would increase evil on the earth. And those are those same people that are ruling nowadays, Edomites, man. All right, pursuant of Job 9:24, where it says the earth was given to the hands of the wicked. That's why in their annual so-called pagan Roman Gregorian calendar, all right, prophesied in Daniel 7:25, they keep these wicked pagan festivals annually on these calendars, man. You see the correlation, and all of this is further solidified through the edification, exhortation, in the Holy Scriptures, man. So it says, going back to the exploration of the Trinity doctrine as correlation with Easter, dealing with the Trinity, right? It says a mother God aspect derives from Astarte, otherwise known as Circe. Okay, going back to Semiramis, the Queen of Heaven worship. See, and that's why they use a woman to further push out these vibrations, all right, through whoredom, through the feminist movement, going back to Margaret Thatcher, that demon. Okay, that's why you have these feminists out here protesting butt naked. You see, it's further push out sexual deviancy, rebellion. Okay, against who? The Most High, Yahweh. Okay, so it says, then it says the God, and then you have, okay, so you have the last aspect of the Trinity doctrine, God the Son aspect, right? It says God the Son aspect derives from Tammuz, okay, which is symbolic of the reincarnation of Baal or Nimrod worship, which further confirms that correlation between the son of God, which is Yahushai, and the Sun God. You see what they did? You see what these devils did? Okay, I'll repeat that. This further exploration, this is prophesied in Romans 20:25, but they changed the truth of the Most High into a lie. You see what they did? And see the correlation of or the incorporation rather of the gospel and pagan principles is further prophesied here in the scriptures, man, by way of secular history filtered through biblical prophecy. All right, so that's why they worship the Son of God on Sunday. It's a play of words. It's to confuse people. It says Son of God and the Sun God, okay, is going into paganism and witchcraft, man. You see, that's why that's what further exposes that Trinity doctrine, where we have God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, which goes back to Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. And during the Renaissance period, they further illustrated that. Okay, and this is in correlation with Easter. Okay, heavy pagan satanic ritualistic sacrifice, man. Okay, and that's why. Oh, speaking of that, you just had Pope Francis come out earlier, and this is what he said. Let me get this. Let's do the spirit. This is what Pope Francis said, right? I'm going to roughly paraphrase what he said, but it's through this for spirit, through the spirit. Okay, this is 4 hours ago. He said, an Easter message. Pope Francis urges broad access to crime royale potions. Okay, and end to conflicts. So he's basically pushing for people to get the V. All right, and you brothers and sisters out there in the know what I'm talking about. You got to speak in code with this devil. So they're pushing their agenda. This is how they further push out their agenda on the world. All right, through witchcraft. Okay, and that's of the origin of America's establishing, pursuing Nahum, the 3rd chapter. Okay, so I'm going to get now that we've explored the sun god worship aspect of the correlation of Easter and the Trinity doctrine, I'm going to get that precept in Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 23, verse 19. Going into the vanity of sun god worship and all these pagan activities, man. These modern day pagan festivals, man. This is Ecclesiasticus or Sirach, chapter 23. All right. And I'm gonna start at I'm gonna get verse 19. Okay. It says, such a man only feareth the eyes of men. See, that's why a lot of these people indulge in this pagan practice. They see everybody else is doing it. Oh, my mother's doing it, my family's doing it, my spouse, my friends, everyone's indulging in it. So if I don't do it, I'm gonna seem like an outcast. See, this is what the devil has done. This is what the rulers of the darkness of this world have done. They've done this madness. All right. Speaking of madness, I don't know what that is. Nonetheless, this is Sirach 23 and 19. It says, such a man only feareth the eyes of men, and knoweth not that the eyes of the Lord Yahweh are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. So going into the vanity of constellation worship of the sun god worship correlation with the Trinity doctrine, going back to Easter. Why would you worship a light in the heavens that the Most High clearly said he's 10,000 times brighter than? Yo, man, let me read this again, man. Hey, yo, man, this world under this devil's rulership is finished, man. America, Babylon the Great, heavily pushing out the wine of fornication of this present day West philosophy is finished, man. So unconformed from this world, you Israelites out there, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians, man, especially those who come across this video, man. Take heed, all right? That reminds me of that worldly saying, men lie, women lie, fill in the blanks. Numbers don't, man. Numbers is further, numbers is synonymous with facts. This is facts coming out here, man. And it's all filtered through biblical prophecy as to why you should not indulge in this witchcraft, man. Like it says in the Torah, thou shalt not suffer witch to live. So you make a choice. Like how Shah said, man cannot have man cannot have two masters. You either love the one and hate the other. So if you proclaim the love of the Most High, you can't be indulging in this modern day witchcraft. You know what I'm saying? Including what they call holidays. where people were getting burned alive. Going back to the origin of these holidays, man. Sirach 23:19. Such a man only feared the eyes of men, and knoweth not that the eyes of the Lord Yahweh are 10,000 times brighter than the sun, beholding all the ways of men and considering the most secret parts. You see? So it goes into the vanity, further goes into the vanity of worshiping or indulging in Easter, synonymous with the Holy Trinity doctrine, sun God worship. Okay? Which we were commanded to destroy these altars of these heathen nations that were indulging in this witchcraft. We would compass about them. Now, while people have forgotten, our way, we've seen in Jeremiah 17:4, and that's the prophets coming. How about Shemeshai? Because you got ministers on the right hand side, you got ministers on the left hand side, and those ministers on the left hand side, pursuing the 2 Corinthians 11 chapter, are these celebrities pushing this madness out here, especially these central bankers, these wicked newscasters. You see, these so-called pastors, these so-called evangelists, and people of prestigious positions that exalt themselves within the affairs of this life, that chokes the word of Yahweh by Shem Yahshai. Case in point. You see? So this is Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 29. All right, Salaki, go to get that. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 12, start at verse 29. It reads, when the Lord Yahweh thy power shall cut off the nations from before thee, whether thou goest to possess them, and thou succeedest them, and dwellest in the land, verse 30. Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them. Snared being trapped. Don't be trapped in your mind, okay, by way of the lust of this flesh to worship their gods. And that's what we fell privy to. We fell victim to, and that's why the Lord ended up putting curses upon our people, including scattering us across the four corners by way of the transatlantic and trans-Saharan slave trade. And there's only one demographic of people that fits those curses, and that's the so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American Indians, the real biblical 12 lost 12 tribes of Israel that are heavily indulged in this madness to this day. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 12, verse 30. Take heed to thyself that thou be not snared by following them, after that they be destroyed from before thee, and that thou inquire not after their gods, saying, how did these nations serve their gods? Even so will I do likewise. Verse 31. Thou shalt not do so until the Lord Yahweh thy power, for every abomination to Yahweh, which he hateth, have they done unto their gods. For even their sons and their daughters they have burnt in the fire to their gods. This is what Easter goes back to, man. Human sacrifice, man, with people being burned alive, including children. And this is witchcraft, man. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get Salaki. All right, verse 32. What thing soever I command you, observe to do it, that Salaki, thou shalt not add thereto nor diminish from it. See, that goes into Revelation 18:12, and that adding or removing from the scriptures. That's what Constantine did. See? Okay. A wicked Israelite. Okay. A priest by bloodline, but he was indulging in a priesthood on the left-hand side, all right, being a minister of Satan, adding and removing this from the scriptures, man. Okay. So ultimately, these modern day Chaldeans that are promoting this culture, this vibration of rebellion against the Lord, which is witchcraft, are going to be destroyed. And that's these bankers, man. The Amalekites of the nation of Edom. So I'm going to get the book of Isaiah, chapter 47. Because once again, what did it say about Easter? Let me go back and go into that. Okay. Isaiah 12:4. It says of Chaldee origin. The word Chaldee is a suffix of the word Chaldean. Okay. So it says Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. For thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. Okay, which nation on the planet or country that claims to be a nation, okay, has this mentality? America. Okay. The ones that believe they're unscathed. That's why in that commercial, that Marines commercial, they say the few, the proud, the Marines. They believe that they're invincible. That's why they added their 6th branch of the military. Okay, going to the prophecy of the beast with the iron teeth being of the Roman Empire, dealing with the military of the nation Edom, okay, of their blessing is sword. Okay, and that's why they're exercising that blessing upon our people, especially around this time. Okay, where our dealing with the border crisis, for example. Okay, all right, and so further into the prophecy in Ezekiel the 35th chapter, where Ezekiel 35:5 says, they sought out the bloodshed of the children of Israel. Okay, and that precept in Ezekiel 35:5. This is part of their ways of keeping our minds enslaved, man, to keep us enslaved. See, this is where the men of the Lord come in, man. Okay, because these modern day Chaldeans, these warlocks and witches that were indulging in that witchcraft back then, are going to be destroyed, man. They're actually going to be the first fruits of slavery, man. These central bankers, okay, for funding the slave ships, which I brought out in the camp yesterday, and all the other manners of wickedness they've done against our people. So we're going to get that in Deuteronomy chapter 18, start at verse 9. All right. It says, when thou art come into the land which the Lord Yahweh thy power giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. Verse 10, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that's a use of divination, which is witchcraft, or an observer of times, or an enchanter or a witch. And an observer of times is like an astrologer. That's another word for observer as well. And that's why in Jeremiah 10:2, the Lord said, go ye not the way of the heathen, so you can avoid worshiping the gods. Observing the constellation of the stars, including the sun and the moon. And which reminds me of Islam. The symbol of Islam, which is moon, the moon symbol, is of the worship of the constellation of stars. And that's paganism. That's witchcraft. You see, because all these religions, all right, go back to satanic, pagan, ritualistic practice in the time of the Nicene Council, all right, of Constantine the Great, a wicked Israelite during 325 AD. Okay, combining pagan principles with the scriptures, man. And that's why Easter is in the Septuagint in Acts 12:4, which has nothing to do with the Lord's Passover. All right. And that's why 1 Kings chapter 16, verse 31 to verse 33, you had Ahab influenced by that wicked harlot Jezebel to worship to worship Baal, which all these idols goes back to, going into the vibration of the Queen of Heaven worship, which is why women are put on a pedestal now, prophesied in Jeremiah 31:22. You know what I'm saying? Nothing is new under the sun, man. Deuteronomy 18:10. There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch. Verse 11, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. And a necromancer is somebody who communicates with the dead. Like in the time of King Saul, where the wicked King Saul consulted that witch to communicate with King Samuel, who had passed over from this life into the spirit realm. So when King Samuel was resurrected, he wasn't resurrected when he was summoned by the witch that the wicked King Saul, the Benjamite of Israel, sought after to communicate with the dead King Samuel. King Samuel told Saul, "What do you want? Why did you summon me?" He was summoned through witchcraft by that witch. You see, and this is that vibration of paganism that Easter goes back to, man. So it says Deuteronomy 18:12, for all that do these things are an abomination to Yahweh, and because these abominations, Yahweh thy God doth drive them out from before thee. And that's why we ended up in America. All right, the land of the main land of our captivity. It's all prophesied, man. Okay. All right, and we fit the curse of the Israelites, man. And we're because case in point, our people are known for being heavily idolatrous, like the Northern Kingdom, for example. Indulging in Guadalupe worship. Okay, Mother Mary worship, going back to the Mother Church concept of the Roman Catholicism of the Greek goddess of sorcery, Circe. Going back to the Semiramis, going back to Astarte, Ishtar. Okay, the spring goddess Eostere. You see, it's all tied into each other, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and start winding this down. I didn't intend for this to be long, but it's the spirit. Everything is flowing through the spirit. All right. So I'm going to get Deuteronomy. All right. So I'm going to end this off in Ezekiel chapter 11. All right. I'm gonna end this off in Ezekiel chapter 11. I'm gonna start at verse 17. All right. All right. Salaki, just bear with me. One moment about Kasha. All right. Just bear with me. All right. Okay, Khan. So this is Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 17. It says, Khan, Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 17 said, therefore say, thus said the Lord Yahweh, I will even gather you from the people and assemble you out of the countries where ye have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel. So how do those people down there with the yarmulkes on their head down there in our land fit this prophecy? They weren't scattered across the four corners, you see. And King Bulan, all right, of the Khazars, which those people down on our land call themselves Jews, Jewish people, goes back to the Khazars. They adopted Judaism, okay, by John Hyrcanus of Jake, all right, of the Hasmonean dynasty, going back to the Maccabean family, all right, influenced by the Maccabean family. So you cannot adopt, in other words, you cannot adopt a nationality. Okay, the Jews are the nation of Israel, so-called blacks from the southern kingdom of the nation of Israel. Okay, which also includes the northern kingdom, so-called indigenous. So that has nothing to do with those people down on the land right now. They don't fit the prophecies, man, because of idolatry and other iniquities. Okay, of the transgressions of the against the holy covenant of Yahweh Shem Yashai, we got scattered across the four corners, and through the which pursuant to Deuteronomy 28 and 68 is those people that were translated and transported across the four corners on slave ships during the transatlantic slave trade, which consisted of the so-called Negroes and indigenous people. And then before that, you had the sub-Saharan slave trade, the trans-Saharan slave trade. Okay, because Gad, the so-called Native American Indians, were not making good slaves because they're warriors in the spirit, especially Gad and Reuben. Okay, and that's why they came and got us, the other Hebrews. Okay, from Northwest Africa, where we were prophesied to end up at, pursuing St. Luke, the 21st chapter, where Yahushua said, "Flee to the mountains, the Atlas Mountains in Northwest Africa." So this correlates with this prophecy here, how we were scattered across the four corners and to the mainland of our captivity, America, which reminds me of the word Osterich. Now, that's through the spirit. In 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, it mentions Ostereth. In the Hebrew, Akar Ratazah, meaning another land. Okay, because the first people that were prophesied to dwell in America and live here were the Israelites, and we're still here. So the Lord's going to scatter. He's going to gather us where we've been scattered and take us back home to Jerusalem. Okay, so he has forgiven our trespasses against us because of the sacrifice of his only begotten Son. So going into the spiritual significance of the Passover, the ironic thing about that is the real Passover, the Pesach, okay, where we were, which is a solemn assembly for the Israelites, where we would get together, kill the lamb, which is symbolic of Yahushua, sacrificial lamb, okay. We would eat unleavened bread, stay and we would stay indoors, which was brought out in Exodus 12, around the 21st verse, in the stream, okay. And we would even drink some wine. That had nothing to do with Easter egg hunting, man. You see, Exodus, so those people in the other land, Akar Ratazah, otherwise known as Osterith in 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, okay, is dealing with America. Those are the real Israelites that are still here. That were scattered across the four corners, including America, predominantly, because the bulk of the slaves, the captives, okay, pursuant to Joel, the 3rd chapter, being the Israelites, were brought to America. This is where the Lord's going to predominantly gather us from and take us back home to Jerusalem, the mother of us all, pursuant to Galatians 4 and 26. This is Ezekiel 11:17. Therefore say, thus said the Lord Yahweh, I will even gather you from the people and assemble you out of the countries where ye have been scattered, and I will give you the land of Israel. And they shall come thither, and they shall take away all the detestable things thereof, and all the abominations thereof from thence. And I will give them one heart. And those detestable, abominable things are these idols, man. Ishtar, Starte, Eostre, you see? Circe, Semiramis, you see? Nimrod, all right? Ezekiel 11 and 19. And I will give them one heart, and I will put a new spirit within you, and I will take the stony heart out of their flesh, and will give them an heart of flesh. Verse 20, that they may walk in my statutes and keep my ordinances and do them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their power. Okay, where it says God, which is power. Okay. Okay, so those ordinances are statutes of the Holy Covenant, man, including the high holy days, okay, including the Passover and the Sabbaths, including the Passover. Because the Passover is a Sabbath day, a holy day. Easter has nothing to do with that. All right, verse 21. But as for them whose heart walketh after the heart of their detestable things and their abominations, I will recompense their way upon their own heads, said the Lord Yahweh. So those who refuse to unconform from this world, like it says in Romans 12:2, they're going to stay here in Babylon the Great, pursuant to Exodus, the 22nd chapter, and they're going to stay here and they're going to melt by way of the lake of fire. It's going to consume this place. Okay, so I'm going to end this off in Isaiah 19:1. The Lord willing, this has been further edifying, exhorting to elect me to come across the video. Okay. Then I'm going to end it off with the brother Yakanan's precept. So I'm going to get this one first in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 1. The burden of Egypt. Okay. Egypt meaning house of bondage. Okay. And America is modern day Egypt. That's why you see Egyptian symbolism on the back of the dollar bill. Okay. The burden of Egypt is a very burdensome thing. It's the ways of this world, the affairs of this life are very burdensome because it's wicked. The burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. Okay, so Guadalupe, so-called Mother Mary within Roman Catholicism, okay, tied in with Easter and Holy Trinity. All these other similar idols are going to be destroyed by Yahweh Shem Hashad with angels. It says, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord Yahweh rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come to Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. So, hey, America, Babylon the Great is going to melt, okay, for her sins reaching the heavens, seen in Revelation 18:5. So I'm going to end this off with the brother Yakanan's precept. And in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14, it reads, if my people, my possessive pronoun, talking about the nation of Israel, the same people that Yahushua was preordained to die for in St. Matthew 1:21. That's what it said. Yahushua, in that scripture says he was to die for his people, also possessive. His is also possessive. That's talking about the nation of Israel. The same people who his bloodshed covered in Acts 5:31. So the nation of Israel, all right, in 2 Chronicles 7:14, in relation, it says, if my people, which are called by my name, the name of Yahweh by Shem Hashah is only given to Israel, pursuant to Numbers 6 and 27, and other precepts. 2 Chronicles 7:14 again. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from the wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will forgive their sin and will heal their land, which is Jerusalem. Okay, and that land's going to be healed, all right, completely when the elected are sealed, if they haven't already been sealed already. And, okay, and once that, and then once they're sealed, pursuant to Revelation 7 chapter, the angels will let go of the four winds of the earth, and then America, Babylon the Great is going to be destroyed, and other certain other parts of the world. Okay, when these nations wage war amongst themselves, Yahushua is going to descend back into this realm with the holy angels, destroy those nations, and take us back home to Jerusalem. Okay, the people of Jerusalem. For Jerusalem is a people before a place. Okay, so I know that's been said. All right, so call Halayim, Yahweh Bahashim, Hamashek Hawashai, Baharach Kodash. You gave me the spirit to do this video, which I pray was further edifying and exhorting to elect and come across the video. Okay, that above the ball, DTA. All right, Kwame Yashala, Arise Israel. Shalom to the elect. All right, on to the next one.